Good evening, social media land. How are you this evening? I hope that this connection is okay and is going to stay okay, because I am in my garden, in my walled garden, and I've got the laptop perched on Bo's wall. That's my little blind dog, Bo. I've had to have a wall built so he doesn't walk off the end of the garden. And I'm broadcasting with a motorbike going going past on the main road, broadcasting episode 94 of Creative Genius TV. How amazing is that? So I think for any of you that have been watching and have watched all 94, you deserve a medal and definitely deserve a prize. Let me know. Anyway, I am Mandy. For those of you that don't know me, and I do this every week, I am Mandy Nicholson, and I am a creative genius consultant, artist, and author. And I help creative women to launch, grow, and scale their business and become amazing entrepreneurs and make more money. There's a little jump in the film in there, so be prepared. The signal may go in and out because I am outside and I have got 3-foot thick walls in this little castle of mine in Dalbeattie. So it's a great backdrop tonight, isn't it? Scaffolding and a new big hole protruding from the kitchen. I've had Scottish Gas here today, and they are putting in a new boiler, a new cylinder, and new radiators. So that's this week's enormously big and expensive job that's going on at the house. So I'm not here to talk to you about that tonight, although it's lovely to be outside. It's beautiful, the weather here, absolutely gorgeous, red hot. And I came down to pick my washing up and just see Scottish Gas off. So I thought I'd do my live from the garden tonight. So most of my lives are generated from conversations or events that happen in my life or in somebody else's life that trigger a thought in me. And those of you that are creatives will know how our thought process works. An idea pops up, something happens, and you've got to run with it and you've got to do something with it. So about a week ago, I had a conversation with an absolutely amazing lady who shall remain nameless, but an amazing lady who I know really well. And she's going through a pretty tough time at the moment. And she's a really talented, really intelligent, beautiful lady that's got something happening in her personal life. And because things have turned a bit sour and things are not working really well, and the person that's involved with this is not being particularly nice to her, her self-worth has taken a huge hit, which happens in times of difficulty. And I chatted to her for quite some time about this. And I think it's important when we have people around us that are experiencing difficult times that we can help them out by talking about how it was for us when we had our difficult times. It makes people feel like they are not alone. And self-worth is not something that's exclusive to weak people, or that it's just weak people that get it. You know, self-worth, self-esteem, imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it, it has multiple manifestations on this planet, doesn't it? It shows up in many, many different ways. And what I did with this lady last week was I reminded myself of the fact that none of us are completely safe from feeling the impact of really low self-worth or self-esteem. And I reverted back to my story, and it just made me think, 11 years ago, I tell this story all the time through my social media. 11 years ago, when I lost everything, that year, that terrible year, that series of unfortunate events that I talk about a lot, where I lost everything. And it's very easy to say that, isn't it? I tell a story of 11 years ago, I lost everything. I ended up at rock bottom. I was bankrupt. I lost my marriage. My dad died. My son was diagnosed with autism and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up in a council house with no money and a clapped out old car. And it's a story, isn't it? We tell stories. But do you know how I felt? This is the thing. Hi, Mira. It's not about just the story. Do you know what it was like for me I am from India. Wow, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me in Scotland in my garden, Mira. It's absolutely amazing to have you. So what happened to me in that series of unfortunate events? I then tell the story of how I bounced back from that, and that 10 years later I bought my house for cash. But in those 10 years, I didn't just become happy, jolly Mandy who made a load of money, because it took me a couple of years after that series of unfortunate events to face life full on. Yes, I got by, and yes, I put things in place. But there were days where I thought I was the worst person on God's earth. I'm sorry, can I know what the topic is? The topic I'm talking about tonight is self-worth, self-esteem, how that none of us are, it's not exclusive, that any of us can experience an impact on our own self-worth at any time. And I'm talking about my story, Mira. So I'd had this series of unfortunate events happen to me over the course of 12 months. I ended up at rock bottom. But I bounced back from that and I recreated my life. But at rock bottom, it's a tough place to be. There were days where I felt like nobody liked me. I wasn't good enough to be liked. I didn't really have any friends, that people were avoiding me, that I would upset anybody if I showed up and I wasn't feeling 100%. That I was worthless, worth nothing, because I'd ended up at rock bottom. There were days that I did not want to get out of bed. I did, because I had 2 kids and 2 dogs that I had to look after. But there were days that I didn't want to keep going. There were days where I felt like nothing. And it was the series of unfortunate events that took me to rock bottom that made me feel like that. In amongst that, I'd have fighting days where I'd be upbeat and I'd be able to deal with life. And then all of a sudden, I'd wake up and think, what am I bothering for? Nobody likes me. I must be a bad person. All these bad things happen to me. And it can be really difficult unless, I'm a really positive person. I can turn any difficult thing into a positive. I can usually solve problems. I've had, a really, really top-notch senior career where that was what I did as a job, was solving problems. But when something happens to you personally, and it did to me, if you think I lost all my money, I lost my job, I lost all my money, I lost my husband and my family, I lost my relationship with my sister, my dad died, I lost my home. There was this series of events that are quite terrifying, actually. I say them very quickly when I'm talking about them, this series of unfortunate events. But imagine for a minute, imagine being in a 6-figure career that's comfortable, that you've been in for decades, and having a husband and 2 kids and 2 dogs, the perfect nuclear family, living in a beautiful country cottage like those off the chocolate box covers, and having a business on the side, and everything's okay. And within 12 months, you've lost everything, one thing at a time. It's like the rug has been pulled from under you. That can't happen without it having an impact on your self-esteem. So it's important to remember how that felt for those of us that have been able to bounce back and been able to rebuild our lives like I have. When I was having this conversation with a friend just a week ago, it was important for me to remember how it was for me on a daily basis, because at this moment, that's her life. She is feeling like she's at rock bottom, like there is no future for her, like nobody likes her, like she isn't good enough, like she doesn't have any friends. And that's how I felt. And when she said those things to me, it took me back to that time, and I remembered how it felt to feel like that. And it's important to be able to resonate with how people are feeling right now and meet them where they are at and say to them, I remember feeling like that. And it doesn't matter what anybody says to you when you feel like that. It doesn't matter if people say to you, things will get better. You know what? There is a future. People do like you. People will come along and say all those things to you. But when you're feeling like that, when you're at rock bottom, and when your self-esteem and your self-worth are on the floor, it's difficult to believe what other people say. Because what your mind does for you, it automatically takes you to, she's just saying that to make me feel better. But what I was able to do was say to this lady, look, this is how it felt for me. I understand. It felt like this. It was like wading through mud. It was dark. It was depressing. There were days where I'd get the kids to school all upbeat, come home and just sit there staring at a wall like a zombie, not knowing what to do with my life, not seeing a future for myself. And yet I still managed to pull it off because we're resilient. As human beings, we are resilient. We're built that way. We are built with survival instincts. There's the fight or flight in us, but not everybody has it at the same level. That's what's important to remember. Not everybody has the same capabilities and the same level of resilience. Sorry, it's noisy. I'm in the garden and it's near the high street. We're going to get beeping cars and motorbikes and barking dogs. That's what happens when you do a live outside in Scotland. So yeah, not everybody has. Just because I survived and bounced back does not mean that everybody has the ability to dig deep and to find that within them. So as human beings, it's important not to dismiss how people are feeling. It's important to understand what people feel like. So for me, I like to really understand how my ideal client feels, because I know how she feels, because she used to be me. She feels lost and she feels like she can't actually do anything right because she's tried various things in business that have not worked for her. She's selling a few things. Some things are working for a short time, but they're sporadic and they're not consistent. I understand that because that's been me. So what the message I'm trying to communicate tonight, in amongst motorbikes, thank you so much for keep riding past, is that it's so important to meet people where they are at right now and work with them from there up. Whether that's their self-esteem that's on the floor, or whether they're struggling in business, or whether they're struggling with their personal life, maybe they're struggling with their kids, maybe they're struggling with their education. You don't know what it's like to be them unless you've been them. And if you have been there and you've been in that situation, it's important for you to remember what you felt like at that time and then figure out how you moved yourself out of it. And that's what was important for me having this conversation with this wonderful person that I was talking to a week ago. I was able to say, look, it takes time. You can't turn around all the things that are hurting you right now on a pin. You can't do it quickly. It takes time to heal. It takes time for the hurt to subside. It takes time for you to start seeing the positive things about yourself again that have always been there, that are there right now, and that have always been there, and that will continue to be there. It's hard for them when they're in that place to see those things, because I couldn't. And I dealt with the pain in many different ways, and everybody deals with the pain differently. Some people drink, some people have to go on to antidepressants, some people eat too much. That's me. Yeah, that's my comfort. That's my go-to comfort. Some people take drugs, some people go off the rails, but whatever way you deal with it, it's temporary. And the only way is through it. The only way to go up is to go through. So when you're working with human beings, it's so important, in business in particular, to say, look, I really understand where you are at right now. And we are working together on your business, but I think it's really important that you work on your self-esteem first, and let's put a strategy together to help you to get through that period before we start bombarding you with business stuff that then is going to make you feel like a bit of a failure because you're not getting it right first time and there's a lot to learn and you feel overwhelmed. So when I work with my clients, I like to really understand them, understand their history, understand where they are now and where they want to be, what their big, big goals are, what it is they want to achieve out of life. And each step along the way, it's important to understand how the progress makes them feel, whether their self-esteem is improving, and as it improves, to add more business knowledge as they go. Because if you try and overwhelm somebody when they're in that place of low self-esteem, it's not going to work. And I think there's a problem with a lot of the online programs that are out there. And I'm not calling anybody in particular out. There are some fantastic business coaches out there. There are some fantastic coaches out there. But there are also some not so fantastic ones that are only interested in selling the product that they have to make the money that they want. And, you know, get on with it. If that's what you want to do and you're not going to come from integrity, that's fine. Get on with it. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to know you. I want to make sure in my business that I am coming from a place of real, genuine integrity, wanting to know where people are, meeting them where they're at, and working with them first on their self-esteem and their self-confidence to build it up to a level where they can cope with the bigger stuff. Because business is a battle. Business is a battle. From the day one, you are going to go through a whole journey of ups and downs and failures and mistakes and costly mistakes, things that cost you money that, you know, you really regret, but you've got to get past all of that. But it starts with having the confidence to take the next action, just the next action, not the one that sits 3 years in the future or 10 years in the future, just the next thing that's going to move you that little step forward and get you slightly closer to your goal. So I'm broadcasting tonight from my house in Scotland. You know, 11 years ago, I had nothing. Now I own this property outright. It's a 7-bedroom property. I'm renovating it with my own cash. It's a magical thing to do. Not everybody can do that, but it takes absolute determination, resilience, sheer bloody willpower to actually want to get to the place I am now. But it's all learned behavior. That's what I'm going to say to you. From 11 years ago, when I felt like I was worthless, nobody liked me, I had no friends, I'd screwed up my entire life and lost everything, lost my job, lost my house, lost my husband, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. How could I be worth anything? And look now, 11 years later, I am worth at least $1 million in this property alone. And I've got a big goal of owning a castle where I can bring more people to creative retreats and help more people. So when I help from a place of understanding. When I help my clients, I help from a place of connection, of empathy, of understanding, and of progress over perfection. Because if I wanted perfection, I would not be broadcasting from a garden with scaffolding at the back of me, with flip-flops on in amongst a building site. I could have gone home to the comfort of my little flat and broadcasted from there, but I didn't. I happen to be here tonight with the contractors picking up my washing. I am like the bag lady of Dalbeattie, by the way, for those of you that are watching my story. I've got a washer at the flat, but nowhere to dry the washing. So I do the washing, put it in bags, and I trot down the street and hang it out in the garden of the house. So I'm constantly up and down the street with bags of washing, bags of rubbish. I've got no bins at the flat either, so I have to bring all my rubbish and all my recycling down to the flats. This is not a millionaire lifestyle. I am living like the local bag lady. So don't think that it all becomes roses when you get to this level. Actually, there's still a lot of compromise, a lot of hard work, and a lot of patience needed. Last week, I got the good news that the roof was going to cost an extra £13,500 on top of the original quote. So I've got a little bit more. You're an inspiration. I can't wait to see how things progress. Thanks, Sue. Honestly, it's been a lesson and a half. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I think the one thing I will say is, when you do what you love, whether that's working with people who need help with their self-esteem, need help with their business, need help to become entrepreneurs, or who have a big dream and a big goal like I had and want to realize that, actually, I love doing that and it doesn't feel like work. And when you can do something that doesn't feel like work, so at the minute, I'm juggling a huge renovation. I've got a massive launch underway. I'm doing a big launch in September. I've got this totally amazing 5-day challenge. And I have put so much work into the challenges and the value that I'm going to share in that. There's so much happening. So this is the same woman that 11 years ago thought she was worth nothing, had no friends, and that nobody liked, because that's how I felt right then. That's how I felt back then when I'd lost everything. So for those of you that are feeling like that today, that are feeling like that right now, be assured that it won't be like this forever. It will change. You can have a successful life. You can have a successful business. People don't dislike you. People just struggle when people are in pain. People are frightened to say the wrong thing. People are frightened to do the wrong thing. And they're frightened to help in a bad way. And people are judgmental. That's just the way of the world. But wherever you are, if you are at rock bottom right now, I am living proof that you don't have to stay there. There is a way back up from rock bottom. There is a way back up from feeling like nobody likes you and that you are worthless, because that was me. And the fact that my friend is there right now brings me great pain. I don't want her to be there. I want her to be better, but she can only do that in her own time, because that's her journey. I've done my journey. She's now on hers, but I can be there. I can be there. I can understand. I can empathize, and I can say it will get better. And it's better to say something than to say nothing. So think about the person who's standing next to you that you may not even know, and think about how they feel right now in this moment. They could be having the worst thing going on in their life that you could imagine, and you know nothing about it. And because they feel worthless, they're very unlikely to say anything unless they know you well enough. And unless you're like me and go, are you okay? And do you want to jump on a call and have a chat? Right? Unless you're bullshit enough to be that person who asks, then they're unlikely to have a conversation with you and tell you how they feel. So you never know how anybody is. You never know. It's our duty to be the nosy one, to be the bullshit one that says, are you okay? You don't look okay. Is there anything I can do? And it doesn't have to be someone that's close to you. It can be anybody. It can be saying hello to somebody in the street and smiling at them and making their day. Because when you are in that place of low self-worth, any little snippet of kindness means a lot. And that's what I'm going to end this live on tonight, is any snippet of kindness means a lot. Please be kind. Please look out for the people around you that may be hurting right now and may be at rock bottom, because it's a lonely, lonely place down there, and all of us can make a difference. And if that's you and you're feeling like that, and you're listening to this and you're thinking that's me, reach out. Reach out to somebody, because people do care. Reach out to me. Reach out to the people that are around you, because there's always somebody that's been there and understands. I will be back the same time next week for episode 25. I'm actually considering adding another live on a Thursday morning. And just as a top-up live as we get closer to the launch that I'm doing in September, to keep everybody updated on what's happening with the house, on what's happening with the launch. If you are interested, I've got a brand new group, and I think I've put the link in the comments. It's called Creative Genius Corner. So it's for all the creative geniuses out there that are in the corner. I want to get you out of the corner, into the limelight, and sharing your brilliance with the world. So if you're interested in joining me in that community, then click the link. I've created the group especially for the challenge that's coming up. But anybody who wants to join me, now there's ducks flying over. There's ducks flying overhead. That's motorbikes, dogs, and ducks I've had now. It's hilarious living here. I love it. So yes, please join Creative Genius Corner. I would love to have you in there. It's basically just going to be a countdown to the launch with some snippets of golden nuggets in there at the moment. Shut up, ducks. And I will see you all next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, either from the garden or from the house. Who knows where I'll be. Bye for now. Have a wonderful week, you lot. And if you're feeling like you're at rock bottom, please reach out to somebody. Somebody cares.